What is up, everyone? Prometheus here. Today I'm going to be telling you guys what is the best movie of all time. So there has been much debate on this. Many common answers are, of course, The Godfather and its sequel, Godfather Part 2. So those are some of my favorite movies of all time. In fact, these are all some amazing films. Got this collection. Growing up, I didn't have Netflix. I didn't have Disney Plus. Back then, when I was a kid, I had to watch all the Disney movies on VHS. We had the entire Disney catalog on VHS and so many more. Honestly, if we sold that entire catalog, we would probably be millionaires. But we have these ones, which are absolute classics, not Disney movies, actual live action movies. Some of these are amazing. There's Cleopatra, Spartacus, Ben-Hur, War and Peace, of course, and a special 35th anniversary edition of the Ten Commandments, a great biblical tale. There's Braveheart, and of course the entire Godfather trilogy. Godfather Part 1 is considered to be the best movie of all time by many. Godfather Part 2 also considered to be the greatest sequel of all time, as well as sometimes the best film of all time, better than the first. In fact, I like the first one the best, but critically I think The Godfather Part 2 is slightly better with a stronger story, and greater scope. Godfather Part 1 still has an amazing story, but I like how Godfather Part 2 kind of parallels the two characters and have their roles switched. Godfather Part 1 shows Michael's descent into he goes from a innocent young man and war hero to a ruthless mob boss. While during the film we also see his father in the position of that, whereas in part 2 3 not part 2 part 2 not part 3 part 3 sucked. Part 2 shows Michael Corleone as the head of the mafia, whereas in the prequel sequences we see Vito's descent or ascension into mafiahood. That's not a word, but he basically becomes the mob boss that he does in the first film. And I like how the one thing that puts it above the first one for me is that it perfectly acts as a sequel and a prequel both at the same time. I like both these films about equally, but I like the first one better, but critically I like the second one better. Now, this video is for me telling you guys what I think and what should be the definitive best movie of all time. Definitively, not just my opinion. What is the definitive best movie of all time? So, The Godfather is a great definitive choice, but this movie, the greatest movie of all time, should represent the entirety of cinema. Like when people are trying to find one film to represent the entirety of cinema as a whole, the entire medium of film, this should be the perfect movie for that. All of these movies are great. I love them all. And my favorite movies of all time, The Godfather, I mean, not The Godfather, my favorite movies of all time, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, are also great films to represent the capabilities of film. Ben-Hur's upside down. But there is one film that I feel is the most perfect, most epic, just everything film should be and more. Like, there's so many great films, and there's less than 10 movies I'd give a 10 out of 10 to. They have to truly earn that score, have to be truly flawless, have every aspect cranked up to 10 or even 11 on the quality scale. So, a few of the movies I'd give a 10 out of 10 are The Godfather, Godfather Part 2. A lot of these films are close to a 10, but even then they're not perfect. No movie's perfect. There's also movies like Schindler's List. There's a few Ghibli films, I think Spirited Away and Tale of the Princess Kaguya. I'd give those a 10 out of 10. 2, 3, 4, 5. Schindler's List, of course. There's a few classics like Citizen Kane and Casablanca. I'd give those 10. That's like 7, and then there's a few more. I don't know if I'd give... The Pianist, for me, is one that I want to give a 10, but then I have to look deeply to see if there's any problems with the film. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, as much as I love it, and they do come close to being perfect, they do have a few problems that are fairly minor. But there is one movie, one of the 10 out of 10 movies, that I feel is the best of my 10 out of 10 movies, the most perfect of those 10 out of 10 films. All of them are perfect, but this one's just so much more perfect than the other ones. That sounds stupid, but I'm totally sure. I'm totally confident that this is the best film of all time. It shows that film is more than just a medium, more than just a form of entertainment, but a form of art, a art form. And that film is among all of these ones. It's among all of them. It's not The Godfather, not The Godfather Part 2. Those are both 10 out of 10 films. I love them. And this film isn't even my favorite film of all time. In fact, it's not even one of my top 10. I like the Godfather movies better, not 3. I love Spartacus. I like Cleopatra. I haven't seen Cleopatra, but I do know a lot about it. It's a absolute classic and a masterpiece of a historical film. Sound of Music's great. Biblical films, biblical historical epics are great, like the Ten Commandments, the Bible, and of course the best of them all, Ben-Hur, which won 11 Oscars, tied with Titanic and Return of the King, which is my favorite movie of all time. And while for me, my favorite movie of all time, Return of the King, is near perfect, this film is just perfect everywhere. It cranks every aspect of it, every last aspect, up to 20 on the quality scale. All of these ones, they crank it up to like 12 on the quality scale, but the movie that I'm talking about cranks it up to 20, maybe even more, who knows. If there was one film that was deserving of like 11 or 12 out of 10 score, this is the film that I would give it to. I bet you're eager to know which one, so just be patient. But this film is a historical film. Historical films are amazing. It was made in the 60s, and it like no film before or ever since has came to matching the brilliance, the cinematic brilliance, the epicness, the scale of this film. Like, this film, even today, is timeless. It looks like you cannot make a film like this today. It didn't have CGI, it didn't have special effects, it didn't have like computer generated effects. It had practical effects. It was shot on location, no green screen. That film, it utilized everything. Every aspect of film was cranked up to its truest potential in this film. Truest potential, not potential. There are so many great historical films, and there are very few that match the excellence of this absolute masterpiece of a film. It is set in a desert, and it features a character that some may see as a hero, others as an anti-hero, and in some cases even a villain. That film is based off an already existing story, and features, and has been, it's set in a desert. I'm unsure how to phrase this, but set in a desert. That film is, of course, it's not Dune. Like, I love Dune. It's one of my favorite books. I have it in my bookshelf over there with all my other ones. But no, it's not Dune. Like, Dune Part 1 and 2 are phenomenal films. Some of the best of the century. Dune Part 2, I saw it in theaters. It was amazing. But this film is just greatest film of all time. Greatest historical film of all time. And possibly one of the greatest pieces of entertainment media ever created. Probably even the greatest. If I could give this film a 100 out of 10, I would. But honestly, I can't. It's the highest score you could give a film is a 10 out of 10. A film that has a 100% score on Metacritic. It has a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes. That should be a 100. And it has everything great about films. Like, The Godfather and Godfather Part 2 are great, but this film has, like, everything you could imagine of a film, and just utilizes it to their fullest potential. Like, all other films before and since live in the shadow of this one. This film, I could make a 50-hour video about praises for this film, and that wouldn't even cover like nearly a quarter of this film's greatness. I love this film. It's not my favorite film of all time, not even my top 10, but critically, it is the best film ever made. Like, everyone should agree with me on this. This is a definitive answer, but the greatest film of all time is based off true events, which I like. I like it when it's based off true events. It has an amazing protagonist, and it really brings its world to life. It really just utilizes the large scope of the film, the big screen. This is a film. Even if you were to watch it today, you would be impressed. Even with so many great films like Dune, it has a great impressive scale. Even if this film was released today, even with it being a bit older and a bit more blurry and not as high resolution as other films, it is still would impress. No film has matched this film's greatness. It utilizes like every single frame in this film. Every last frame is amazing. No, you can't find a single bad frame in this film. It's impossible. The acting is great. The characters are amazing. It's realistic. It really just if words can't describe the greatness of this film. I cannot do justice to this film in words. Watch it, and you just the greatness of this film when watching it nearly killed me. I'm serious. I nearly had a heart attack from the greatness of this film. Yes, I'm old. Not that old, actually. How old am I? I should know that. But what I'm just saying, it's amazing film that utilizes everything. If you've seen this film and if you've heard the information I've stated about it so far, you know exactly which film this is. It is in this collection, among all of them. It's a 10 out of 10. I am stalling at this point, so let's just get to it. The greatest film, definitive greatest film of all time, is Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia is a absolute masterpiece of a film. If you were listening to the information, you have probably know about this film. This film, you watch it today, and you're just astounded on how did they make this? How did they make this back then? It seems impossible. It seems like a miracle. Like, this film honestly would still look like a billion-dollar film today. You don't. I listened to Denis Villeneuve talk about it in a clip, so it probably kind of inspired how he filmed Dune. So, yeah, of course, I think this is an influential film. Highly regarded. It is always considered to be one of the greatest films of all time. Like, it's on the list, but I don't ever see it at number 1 or even in the top 3, which is a shame because this film honestly puts all these other films to shame. All of these are great films. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Okay, maybe not this one. I mean, it's like for me, Godfather Part 3 is like a 6 or 7 out of 10, leaning more into the 60s, but all the other great films in this, like, this film truly justifies its near 4-hour runtime. This is the second longest film in this collection. It's 3 hours 42 minutes, but of course the longest is Gone with the Wind, also an absolute classic and one of the greatest of all time. But this one, honestly, I don't think there's any other film that matches this in terms of quality, in terms of cinematography. Like, some can make the argument that other aspects of this film are done better than others, and whatever, can't argue with that, but literally every aspect of this film, like every aspect of filmmaking, is at its peak in this film alone. Like, The Lord of the Rings wishes it was this epic, and yes, I love those films more than this one, but even those films, as epic as they are, wish it was this epic. Avengers Endgame wishes it was this epic, this grand scale. Lawrence of Arabia brings the desert, a barren wasteland, to life. It brings a barren wasteland to life, adding character to its setting. Its setting is like a character. I believe the director wanted to do that with the film. Like, there are very few films that I feel come close to matching this film's scale and greatness. Those are other historical movies like Cleopatra, Gone with the Wind, Spartacus, Ben-Hur, but even they fall just short of this film's magnificence. Magnificence. I don't even think that's a word. I keep on stuttering. Should have wrote a script for this video, but this video, I don't have a script for this. I'm just talking. This is genuinely coming from a place of heart. Like, other historical epics, such as Bible, Ben-Hur, Ten Commandments, focus on, like, divinity, about like, Messiah, miracles, and stuff. This film focuses on a real man who actually existed, yes, but what it is, it's not biblical, it's real war. And I don't think any other film has ever shown me it's shown me war on this scale. Like, there's other films, great war films. Schindler's List, also a 10 out of 10, one of my top 5 films of all time. Even that film, which captures the horror of the Holocaust, I don't even think it's as good as this one. Like, it's amazing, 10 out of 10, obviously, but in terms of just overall scale and just, I've used scale, epic, there's so many different words that can describe this film, honestly. Review of this film, I'd give it a 10 out of 10, but if I could, I'd give it a 100 out of 10. Even a 100 out of 10 couldn't justify the score. If I made a video trying to just describing everything great about this film, it would probably honestly be, like, how long would it be? 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be like 400 or 500 hours long, honestly. That's how great this film is. Like, all other films before this movies made before this movie, all movies made after, never live up to this. Like, there are great movies that are made before this film. Like, I think Ben-Hur was made before this. I believe Spartacus as well. Maybe not. Who knows? But a lot of the movies that came before this are all great. A lot of them are in this collection, but they can't live up to this film's greatness. No film before or since has lived up to it. I can say the same for The Godfather. No mob or crime movies before or since that one has surpassed its greatness. Same with with The Godfather Part 2. Like, it was surpassed by The Godfather Part 2, but that's the same franchise. But The Godfather, the first two ones, if the third one was as on the same level as these two, it would have been the greatest trilogy of all time. But no, that's the Lord of the Rings now, because Part 3 was a really big drop in quality. But Lawrence of Arabia is just consistently good. Nothing in this film is bad. There is genuinely not a single flaw in this film. Like, you can dig deep in some of the biggest films ever made, you can find flaws. But in this one, you won't find a single thing to complain about. Everything is just, like, the journey, the struggles of the characters, Lawrence himself. Like, it's amazing. World War I setting is amazing. The war is amazing, and it's so much more significant when you remember that this is based off a true event, and it retells it perfectly, flawlessly. Like, they should honestly bring this, like, Cineplex, Landmark, any other movie theater bring this back to theaters. Let everyone experience the greatest film of all time on the big screen. Like, honestly, why don't they bring this film back? Like, we've had these for a long time. One of the most critically acclaimed and beloved films of all time. Yep, one of. It should be the most. Like, it's like, there's no video game on Metacritic that has a 100% score, but Lawrence of Arabia has a 100% score on Metacritic. The Godfather also has that, but there are very few things on Metacritic that have garnered a 100% score. This film is one of them, because there's not a single review score below 100 on Metacritic, and that is honestly perfect, because it deserves that. Like, there are there's no films in the future that could surpass this. I'm sorry, it's probably impossible, because it's impossible to make a film this great today. Like, it's near impossible to recreate the Lord of the Rings, because today it's always about CGI, about just satisfying the fans, doing it for the fans. Lord of the Rings is probably on one of the only other films I feel cannot be recreated today, because we have CGI, we have big celebrity cast and stuff. It wasn't always about quality, but with this film, it was about telling the story and telling it well. It was about showing us the true capability of films. if there was one movie, I said this earlier, but if there was one movie that could represent the entirety of film as an art form, as a significant, as something significant in our modern day, that one to represent the entire excellence of film, all rolled up into one film. Like the there's one if there was one film to to represent film as a whole, it's Lawrence of Arabia. The Godfather could also do that. There's a lot of films here that can also show that. Godfather, Gone with the Wind, Part 2, Ben-Hur. There's a lot of other great films that can also do that, but Lawrence of Arabia is the most definitive film, the most definitive, most acclaimed. Well, not it. It has high scores, but there are other films with even higher scores. But I feel this one is just the best, definitive. This is definitive, the definitive best movie of all time. Like, I have seen the greatest films of all time, all of them, but this is the one that stick out to me the most. And if you watch it, you will 100% agree with me. It's impossible to deny the greatness of this film. David Lean is one of the greatest directors of all time from this film alone. So many other directors look fondly on this film, and like, honestly, I don't think any other future film can surpass it. Like, Dune Messiah, when it comes out, it's amazing. I think they say it's going to be better than Part 2. Dune Messiah is the only film I feel that could come close to matching this film's greatness when it comes out. But that's if they do it greatly. Like, I'm confident Denis Villeneuve will do it well. Yes, I can pronounce his name. I'm Canadian. I'm French Canadian. But, like, the only other film I feel could, like, the only other medium of film, only other type of film that could possibly come close is also animation, because animation has zero boundaries. You can do anything with animation. Like, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is a film coming soon. Miyazaki's next film, those ones could also be, like, the greatest animated films of all time. But I think it's near impossible to, like, make a film better than this. Like, probably even impossible, because they didn't have all the advanced, they didn't have quite as advanced tech back then. They had to use real things, and they used it to its fullest potential here with this masterpiece of a film, Lawrence of Arabia, the greatest movie of all time, and should be revered as such for centuries. No film, the greatest masterpiece of the century of all filmmaking. No film in the past century. No film in the past near 200 years of filmmaking. I don't even think it's come close to near 200 years, but under 200 years we've had films. And this is the definitive one. This is everything filmmaking was made for. Like, it's nearly 4 hours long, but I honestly wish it was like 9 hours, even 10 hours long. In fact, I wish it was longer than that so-called video essay I mentioned earlier. Like, it's amazing. 500 hours long. If this film was 500 hours long, I would still watch it. It comes in 2 VHS tapes. These days, you could put a film this big on a one DVD, but this one, it was a hefty one. They had to put it on 2 VHS tapes. Same thing with movies like Titanic, and like, you can't deny that this is the greatest film of all time. You just can't. And I used film. That is the better way. I like people call them movies, but I like film. And this film justifies its long run time. It shows us film at its highest quality. And I'm going to make a statement that will probably age very well. We will never see film quite like Lawrence of Arabia ever again. We have seen ones in the past, but these days film is all about CGI, all about appeasing the fans, like Marvel and Disney. Like, they've made some pretty good films in this year too, I won't deny that, but they've also went downhill. I mean, Disney made the right choice in canceling The Acolyte. I mean, that sucks for, like, its few fans, but wasn't there like a petition signed or something signed to bring it back? Who knows? If they bring it back, I don't care because I never watched the first season. I don't care what happens to it. But the only other piece of media that I feel comes close, like only other piece of media in all of media, there is no video game, no movie, no TV show, no book, well, maybe one, that comes close to the quality of these. This is the greatest piece of entertainment media ever created. The only other piece of the only other piece of media, fictional media, or just media as a whole, yes, I include books with that too, but the greatest piece of digital media. The only other piece of media that I feel comes close to the quality of this is my favorite book of all time and also the highest rated novel ever written. The Stormlight Archives Book 2, Words of Radiance. I have that on my bookshelf right over there with Oathbringer and a few other books that I read. I read Full Metal Alchemist, Dune, Kingkiller Chronicles, and a bunch of Tolkien too. But the Stormlight Archive is the greatest novel series of all time, like highest rated of all time, and just beloved as all heck. Um, I feel those are the only other pieces of media that come close, but I don't. Even then, I don't think they're as great as this film. Nothing in the history of entertainment media has come close to this. Beforehand, afterhand, I just keep on repeating statements over and over again. I might even just make a video about this. I'm gonna watch this film again. I'm gonna make another video gushing over it. It's not gonna be 500 hours long. That's gonna take up like an entire year of making. But I'll make a video and I'll try and maybe in like 20 to 30 minutes, because or maybe I might make a series, each episode covering a different aspect of the film and talking about how great it is. But yeah, I might do that in the future with maybe even with Mayor Dragon if he watches the film. Because yeah, I didn't grow up in the 60s, but watching this, it feels like a modern film. It's aged so well. At the same time, it doesn't feel like a modern film at all. It doesn't feel like an old film nor a modern one. It feels like its own thing. Something that can never be recreated. This is a film that us humans are not worthy of. The only God himself is the only one worthy of this film. The people up in the heavens are the only one worthy of this film. And this film might even be a gift from God. Like, I have a theory. I think David Lean was actually God himself coming down and manifesting as a human being and created this film for us as a gift. That's my theory, and honestly, it might be true. Might sound crazy, but it might be true because that's how good this film is. Like, I haven't watched it as much as I've watched Lord of the Rings, which is a shame because I love those films so much. In fact, I love those films more than this one. This isn't even, like, it's definitely in my top 20 favorite films, but it's not even my top 10. But even then, I can praise it. Critically, this is the best film of all time. No words, not even the most beautiful language in the world that can do justice to how great this film is. But honestly, just watch it, and the feeling it gives you, you'll know. When you watch this film, you will know why this is the greatest film of all time. You will know. You have the feeling. You get the feeling. You get the feeling that it's the greatest. Like, you don't just see this film, you feel it. It's not like an emotional, like, it can be emotional at times, but it's not like an emotional film, but it gets you emotional by how great this film is. Like, I would honestly, again, I nearly had a heart attack watching this because of how great this is. This is a amazing film that never will be topped. I honestly don't think any other film will ever come close to this masterpiece. There are many in this collection, yes, Cleopatra, Ben-Hur, Gone with the Wind, Spartacus, Godfather. A lot of these films do come close, but they still fall short to the greatest film of all time, Lawrence of Arabia. And honestly, I don't think any other film can top it. I've said that so many times, but I can say that this is the greatest film of all time. Nothing can top it. This film brings every aspect of filmmaking to its peak. I can say those, so all the phrases I've been repeating in this video again and again. I can say them for the rest of my life, and that wouldn't even come to even a fraction close to doing justice to this. I can make billions of videos about how great this film is, and that would not do justice. It wouldn't. It wouldn't come close. To say that this is the greatest thing humanity has ever created would be an understatement. That's a bit too far. Well, the greatest piece of media humanity has ever created, that would be an understatement. Like, nothing can top this. It's the greatest film of all time. Not my opinion, definitive. David Lean is God himself. He came down from heaven, created this film. When he passed away, he went back to heaven. Or maybe he he was able to control too. I don't know. I can't handle the concept of God. Like, this is a film gifted from God. All of these films are great, but Lawrence of Arabia, to call it great would be an absolute understatement. To call it the greatest thing that to come out of film since its inception would be an understatement. It's the greatest film of all time. It should be revered as such till the end of humanity. Go watch Lawrence of Arabia, and you'll know exactly, you'll agree with me, you'll know exactly what I've been talking about this whole video. Just bask in its greatness. Bask in the greatness of film in one near 4-hour experience. Don't get me wrong, all of these films are great. Go watch The Godfather, go watch Part 2, give Part 3 a chance, because it's not entirely terrible. Watch all these are all great. But Lawrence of Arabia, it should honestly be illegal under the punishment of death to not watch this film. Go pop it in if you have a copy. Watch the greatest film of all time, Lawrence of Arabia.